call the meeting to order. Joe notes there is a quorum present and flag salute. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, additions 2.0, additions and revisions to the agenda. I'm going to add 6.4 under new business, which is consider purchase of county vehicle. And then anything on the consent agenda that needs to be pulled, or are we good?
I would like to pull the minutes from the consent agenda. I didn't get them. I didn't get the revisions back.
Okay.
So I looked at them now.
So do you want?
And I didn't notice till last night when I was trying to, so.
Okay. So do you want me to move those under new business?
So
or
the
do you
April
want
4th, April 4th work session minutes, I really only had one change on it. It was a date. I'm sure it's fine. That one's okay. I just wanted to pull off the regular meeting minutes and table them.
Okay. So I'm going to put, so we can actually do the motion of that, I'm going to put that down under 6.5.
Thank you. You ready for a motion on the consent agenda?
Not quite yet. We got to do public comment first.
Oh, let's get on ahead of
I know
myself.
you're jumping the gun. I'm going to just make sure.
Yeah, we're still on 2.0.
She's like ready to go. Sorry. Ready to go. Okay. Anything else? Additions or revisions?
No.
That's it. Okay. Okay. Correspondence. We do not have any correspondence, so we'll move into public comment. Individuals wishing to address the county court may do so at this time and at other times throughout the meetings. Speakers are asked to raise your hand to be recognized by the chair, give your name and address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Is there any public comment? Okay. All right, Leslie, now we're ready for
Okay.
4.0,
Ready?
consent agenda.
I move we approve the consent agenda. I second.
Okay, it's been moved and is seconded that we approve the consent agenda, which consists of consider approval of April 4th work session minutes, consider approval of Transportation Department's STIF grant, consider approval of general IT services contract with ActTech Solutions, consider approval of IGA with Lane County for assessment and taxation IT services. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Okay, moving on. Unfinished business. 5.1, Frontier Telenet update. So, when last we met, the Frontier Telenet Budget Committee was expected to meet the next Friday after we had met, and we actually postponed that. The sheriffs were originally appointed and suggested to the Frontier Telenet Board that they would feel more comfortable if there was lay people on the budget committee instead. So we postponed that, the budget committee meeting, and then the regular meeting, Frontier Telenet will have a regular meeting next Wednesday at 1 o'clock in Morrow after the Tri-County Court meeting. So if you guys are coming for that, you might want to stay in the afternoon if you can. And I'm anticipating that we will approve a revised budget schedule and then appoint 3 lay people to the budget committee.
What day did you say that was?
It's next Wednesday, so it would
24th.
be the 24th.
Okay, so just as a note, the FTN agenda says Thursday the 25th at 10 a.m. So they may want to change that.
That's interesting. Okay. Let me see. Other than that, we really haven't, Frontier Telenet hasn't met. The Frontier 911 board met yesterday and approved a budget that included about $400,000 to go to Frontier Telenet. Which is considerably more than they've paid previously. Previous years, they paid about $100,000. So they've upped it by four times, basically. So, and that's about all I know for now. I'm going to tell it. I'll have more May 1st after we meet next week.
Are they advertising for their budget committee members, or are they just appointing people?
I think we're just appointing people. And my recommendation, well, the Sheriff Lowry was the one who caught me and said, you know, he didn't think that the sheriff should be on it, and suggested that we choose people who've been watching Frontier Telenet, who may have a different perspective on Frontier Telenet than what has historically been around the table. So
I think it's a good idea.
yeah,
That is a good idea.
yeah. So that's so I have some names for us that I think will be a good fit. And then I don't know who Joe or Lynn will recommend
Come up with.
from their counties.
Okay.
We try to have one from each to keep it balanced. So, so yeah, that's all I've got on that. Let me make sure I've got stuff organized here before we move on to the adoption. Okay. So, any other questions for Frontier Telenet stuff? Okay. 5.2, second reading and consider adoption of ordinance 2019-01, which is the weed control special assessment. You got your script?
I do.
You got yours?
I don't know. Okay, are we ready for the motion?
I think so.
I move to have the second reading of ordinance number 2019-01 by title only.
I second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to have the second reading of ordinance 219-01 by title only. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so then I'll read this. In the county court of the state of Oregon for Gilliam County, in the matter of ordinance for a special weed assessment within Gilliam County, ordinance number 2019-01.
I move to accept the second reading of ordinance 2019-01 by title only and to adopt the ordinance.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to accept the second reading of ordinance 2019-01 by title only and to adopt the ordinance. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, it's passed. Done. Okay, 5.3, Grain Lab update. Where are we?
Well, we are still, Peter Mitchell, the Port of Arlington, and our economic development person has given a tour of the Grain Lab to this company that is interested in possibly leasing for a short period of time. We are still in the process of making contact with the Economic Development Administration, the EDA, to determine if this is falls under their criteria. It would just be, I think, a short-term lease is what they have been, because they're planning, I believe, to build their own building.
Got it.
I did make contact with Ron Wyden's office, and they have what they call a hemp expert in there. So,
Of course they do.
he's busy this week, but we're going to make a connection next Monday and see where we are and get some assistance from Ron's office.
To get just a determination.
Yeah,
from the EDA.
to find out if it's something the EDA will let us do.
Okay.
Good deal.
Sounds good.
And
Do you-
just, sorry,
Okay.
just to add into that, Michelle down at the planning department told me today that so because this is a different use than before, it would have to go through the planning process and get approval for a change in use. And they have signaled that they don't want to start that process or going further with that process until they know EDA's stance.
That makes
Yeah,
sense.
we don't want to go any farther until we find out what EDA stands. It's not productive to continue until we know if we can do it or not.
So do you want me to just would you like me to keep the Brain Lab update just under our old business like we do with Frontier Talent?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
By next meeting, we should have some type of report on what's happening.
Awesome.
Judge,
Uh-huh.
does the county still owe on the Grand Lab?
So, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
You can if you want. My understanding is we're not making any payments, but the issue is we're under a 20-year agreement with the EDA on
How it's
usage
used.
of the building. So if we wanted to pursue buying them out, maybe, we might owe some money. But as long as we follow the terms of the grant, then the county doesn't owe any money for the building. We are paying right now, and there's a whole section of the budget for just keeping the building,
Maintained.
propane and lights and all that kind of stuff. So we're paying to maintain it, but
Yeah.
but other than that, we don't have a cost.
Correct.
Okay, anything more on that? All right, let's move on to new business. Discuss Ardent Mills repair and maintenance needs.
I did talk with Jeff Schott today, and he is still interested in helping engineer any of the problems that we're having. He and I are going to connect again next week because I was on my way to a meeting when we were speaking on the phone, and he was on his way somewhere else. So we're going to make a connection. The roof, the company that actually put the roof on had come, I think, last spring and to evaluate some issues, but I don't believe anything ever came of the repair. So he was going to make contact with them again to come for the roof repair. And then Mrs. Lawrence had some other issues that she identified. Cement steps by the warehouse door coming apart, the front door needs to be upgraded, and it doesn't close all the way, and so it's not secure. And then there's a door at the back that they also wanted to make more secure. So, and let's see, she added one more. Oh, the outside lighting system needs repaired as well. So we will address all of those issues as soon as Jeff and I get together next week and make a plan.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds like I will be keeping that on the agenda as well.
Yes, please.
Okay, got it.
It's a work in progress, but we are working forward.
Okay. Anything more on that?
I do not.
Questions, Leslie?
Nope.
You good? Okay. 6.2, consider capital investment grants, review, and award funds. So these were obviously things that we first started talking about during the budget committee process. I don't know, Sandy, if you want to just walk us through, again, the staff recommendation, what's in there, what the staff recommendations were, and I kind of put you on the spot.
Okay, so basically there were 3 applications that came in the capital investment pool, the Condon School District, the Arlington School District, and the Port of Arlington. The Condon School District's project is requesting $440,000 to replace the outdated heating system in the Condon High School. They had a pretty well laid out plan for what was needed, the components of the project, and the pricing was fairly reasonable. And so the recommendation from the review team was to fund it with conditions, and the conditions being doing it on a reimbursable basis rather than a lump sum, because there is some price range worked into what they asked for. That was kind of what we threw it out, and that was the #1 ranked project that we had. The second project, the #2 ranked project, was the Arlington School District, who are requesting $400,000, and their project is to make the school, the or elementary school more ADA compliant. Very similar to the last one, the review team thought it was a good project, should be funded. There were some questions about what the pricing really was, because there were no real, it wasn't clearly explained what would be done with the money specifically. So again, our recommendation is to fund it up to $400,000 on a reimbursable basis. And then the third project was from the Port of Arlington. They asked for $317,000 to extend, basically there was two projects in this application. The first project was to extend the water and sewer lines on Island Park with the idea that eventually a building would be placed down there that would hook into those systems. And then the second project was to run a water line from the city of Condon out to the Condon Airport, Lance Pauling Field. The review team recommended not funding this. We had concerns, we were a little bit troubled by having two projects put together, and really without the two projects put together, there's questions as to if there really was adequate match for the requirements to be met. Specifically for the water line extent or water and sewer extension down in Island Park. Most of the match that was laid out was for the Condon Airport project, and that was again money that they were going to request in a grant from the state, so that was still pending. And then the other issue that we had with the Island Park project was that it was really, we looked at it as more of a piece of a project rather than a complete development plan for the site. And we felt like it would be better to have a development plan and an idea of what that building is going to be, how that's going to come to fruition, because we really didn't understand how you could lay that water line and sewer line in if you didn't know where the building's going to be, how much the need is going to be, how do you size that, all those sorts of things. And then with the Condon Airport water line extension, really the heartburn we had over it was that the city of Condon had pulled out of the project. Originally they were going to be a substantial partner, and as this is sort of spread out over a number of years, the city of Condon's, their ability to participate has changed. Their public works staff has been reduced. And so they kind of moved out of it, and we sort of felt like if the city wasn't really supporting this, that maybe it wasn't the place for the county to support it either. And so that's where our recommendations came down.
Thank you.
Questions, thoughts on this? I mean, the budget committee, obviously you guys were there, but for the publics that may have not sat through all our tantalizing budget committee discussions, the budget committee was really supportive of these recommendations and felt that they were solid. So, thoughts on this?
After today, how will these three entities be notified?
Good question. That's something we need to talk about on the operations grant side as well, that we already approved through the budget process. And so maybe a little bit of feedback, I think it's what we're looking for from you guys. Obviously, all of them will need to sign agreements. So we're gonna have to go through a process of drafting agreements for everybody. So I don't know if you guys would just like need to send a letter saying that your funding for your project has been approved pending signed agreement, basically. And here are the conditions that were placed on it, if there were conditions placed on it.
So I was wondering too, like if a lot of the information in the staff reports would just be provided to them as well.
Yeah, we had talked about maybe even posting them online so that people could go back and kind of just see what the comments were on their own. But I think at minimum, if folks want to see what the staff comments were about their projects, I mean, those are public documents, so it's really a matter of whether we want to mail those out or just in the letter let people know if they would like to see the feedback that the staff had. Here's where you can see it, basically, that it's online or they can request it directly from the treasurer's office.
I think a letter is appropriate to let them know that they've been funded and just maybe the basics of what, if there are conditions, the amount and the basics of the conditions, and then the fact that they need to make an appointment to come and sign the document.
And if they're not funded, kind of the reasons why.
Yeah.
And a little bit of what the staff, what the recommendation was, and.
For next time. Okay, we can do that.
So, do we want to put the reviews online, or?
Do you have a preference on that?
I almost think that the letter.
Yeah, and I think if anybody's interested, they would ask, and they would be made available.
They're asking.
They are asking.
They are asking.
People are asking.
Yes.
Well, then we should, because then that's an easier answer.
That they're
Yes, they
available?
are available online.
Okay. Kelly's in the back. She's giving us a thumbs up.
Yay.
It's on my to-do list.
She's excited.
Okay, so getting back to the capital investments, because these were done outside of the budget committee, we would need a motion if you guys want to move forward with
You ready?
authorizing funding.
I'll do a motion if
Go
you're
ahead.
ready.
I'm ready.
Okay. I move to award capital investment grant funding to the Condon School District in the amount of up to $440,000 and to the Arlington School District in the amount of up to $400,000 to be funded from the fiscal year 2019-2020 SIP discretionary line item with conditions imposed as discussed and pending a fully executed grant agreement.
Very eloquent.
Wow, I just made that all up my head, right off the
Good
top.
job.
I know.
I'll second that wonderful motion.
If I
Okay.
could talk, it would be easy.
It's been moved and seconded to award capital investment grant funding to the Condon School District in the amount of up to $440,000 and to the Arlington School District in the amount of up to $400,000 to be funded from fiscal year 2019-2020 SIP discretionary line item with conditions imposed as discussed and pending a fully executed grant agreement. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. On to 6.3, consider county court staffing realignment proposal. So, I have given you a briefing as well as job descriptions, and for folks who are in the audience who want to know what we're proposing, I'll just kind of do a broad overview and then see what we have to discuss. So basically, the essential proposal before us is a staffing realignment that would be the creation of 2 new positions and the elimination of the current court administrator position. The 2 new positions would be a chief of staff / director of administration. And that is really meant to be somebody who, one, will be in the building and supervising staff when I am not in the building and supervising staff. So they would have a direct report that is consistently there, as well as managing the HR functions for the county, which historically have been the judge, the clerk, and some combination of that with counsel often, how we've managed a lot of those. So this person would be doing, basically what I did when I was looking at the job descriptions was I took what a county administrator and a lot of the other counties where they're sort of running the day-to-day and coordinating staff efforts to implement initiatives of the court, that kind of stuff, with an HR director position and squish them together. Most of the other counties to handle all of these positions would have 4 or 5 or more people. Obviously, that's not really realistic for us in our budget. So I thought if we could get a senior level person that can handle The personnel, is in a supervisory management position, can also do, when we say this is something that we want to have done from the court's perspective, they can help coordinate amongst departments and things like that. I think that will help the courthouse sort of hum along and do the day-to-day stuff that needs to get done without getting hung up on my desk, to be frank, because sometimes what happens is I'd like to do the big picture stuff, and the day-to-day stuff ends up just swamping it. So I'll have folks that come in and need more immediate attention, and those are not things that we can't address, especially when it's personnel stuff. But so that's my hope, is that this will kind of professionalize our HR and do those kinds of things, so there's a consistent leader in the building that can manage that piece, and then free me up a little bit to focus more on our big picture initiatives that we're trying to get done for the court. And then the second position would be an administrative assistant, and this is really going to be more of the clerical side of our how the court manages all the paperwork, the court packets, the agendas, the minutes, all of those pieces, as well as moving the safety committee from the road department assistant over, and some other hodgepodge duties that have just kind of, if you look, I think at the time, previous courts have just given them to whoever had time. So they weren't necessarily things that are sort of core missions of somebody's, and they just sort of taken on kind of this random or that random project. So I'd like to try to put those into one person who's working directly for the court. So that's my sort of recommendation. The budget committee did put aside the funds for both of the new positions. Those are budgeted already. And what we would need to do if we wanted to move forward, what would be to vote to create the new positions. I have some draft job descriptions in here, and so if we decided we wanted to approve them, I would ask that we do it sort of contingent on some feedback from CIS and council, because I haven't run those by either, just to make sure I've got all of the appropriate language as far as, duties and physical demands and all those kinds of things that are important to get in there and get right. So, sort of a contingent motion. And then just by consensus, maybe saying, yes, please go forward with starting the recruitment process for those positions.
Well, I do see a need for more focus on HR. Any other company that has 50-plus employees has an HR person that's handling all of that in one place. There's a complete new hire orientation and all the backup that goes with that.
Yeah.
I think that's something we're lacking.
And the thing too with the HR piece is that every time the legislature convenes, usually they're changing something. And it's a lot to keep up with that and make sure. And it's also a considerable liability to the county if we don't get that right. If we're not following appropriate league rules and things like that. And I just think long term, I'm always trying to think about who will come after us in these positions, and to try to structure whatever we leave behind so the next person, their job is a little bit easier to do well. And this is one of those areas that I think it's really important that we have somebody that is managing the HR piece professionally and knows what all of those rules are. And I think with the variety of backgrounds that the judges have in particular, and the fact that usually it by default becomes the judge's responsibility, that might be more than is reasonable to ask for a judge maybe who doesn't come from an HR background.
Well, and it isn't I don't believe it's what we want our judge to be doing anyway.
Yeah.
It's spending all their time managing staff.
Yeah.
And it can become that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure, yeah.
So in the past, the different departments have kind of handled their own hiring, and posting and all of that. Would this person take care of all that?
I mean, it's gonna be up to, in part, the elected officials would have to buy into having, I would see it, I think in an ideal world that we would try to centralize that in some way. Maybe depending on the department, it might vary. I mean, Gary may, since he's in the room, he may feel pretty strongly that he really wants to manage the sheriff's hiring process in there. And so I would certainly, but I don't know that necessarily that person would have to be the one that's structuring the recruitment process, but they would be a person who is a resource if any of the electeds have a question about what's the appropriate process here, if they have a grievance, what's the process that I need to follow. The idea would be that person would be part of the management team to help problem solve for all of the departments. So.
There was also a lot of talk with the previous court about a human resources person.
Mhm.
That's been being discussed for a long time. And also it being part risk management. So would this person be handling those type of duties as well?
So the risk management side, I thought was kind of interesting that the previous court identified one person. Because if you talk to the other counties about how they manage risk, they always talk about doing it in a team. So they talk about having a finance person, maybe their county administrator, their county judge, counsel. So they kind of bring those people together and they manage risk together based on the specific circumstances that they're dealing with. So that to me, so I would see that the senior level person, the chief of staff, would be part of that risk management team, but the responsibility would fall to the management team itself. So depending on what the issue is, if it's a contract issue or if it's a personnel issue, that might be, say, the judge and the chief of staff and counsel and CIS managing that. If it's something else, if it's a safety issue, it might be the sheriff's office and the chief of staff. So they would play a role in that.
Would they be the lead or not necessarily?
Probably in identifying when those things come up and who needs to be at the table, then I would say yes.
I think it would depend on the situation. Risk management is a really big umbrella. I mean, there's a lot of things that go under it, not just personnel, but setting up things like discretionary immunity for decisions that are made. So that's going to be, my recommendation is that that's on that's encompasses several people and that's dependent on the situation.
Other questions or thoughts?
Would a salary range have to be decided? How soon would that have to be decided?
So we will have it would be ideal if we're going to be advertising very shortly to have at least something to have out there. But the actual salary schedule itself is something that the court will have to approve for everybody. We have to approve before the end of the fiscal year.
Because, well, I'm confused about the range. Is that a starting range or is that the whole range?
The range in here is based on the salary schedule that we're using for the employees, and the senior level person was based on, it was based on John Turlin's, to be honest, the range that the previous court had approved for John Turlin's, because his position is the one that I could find that was closest in terms of the leadership role that he plays within the sheriff's office. That would be somewhat similar within the county. But obviously we haven't done a sort of a survey of our other fellow counties. One of the things that I think we'll run into though is most of the other counties split those positions out. So we're gonna have a hard time finding, I mean, they've got an HR person and they've got a county administrator. So I think we're gonna have a hard time finding a comparable comparison when we do that.
Well, and Gilliam County is, in our CBA negotiations at least, it's always been with an eye towards the judge's salary and setting a base level. So I think you're going to want to work within that with that as the base as well.
So this range though, is this like when you're looking at the salary schedule, is it from
First step
A
to-
step to the
Mhm.
final step?
Mhm.
And would this person start at step one? Or because we haven't had discussions, but I've been involved in plenty of discussions where sometimes we've done it this way and sometimes it's been done that way, but where there's been a line of thinking that everybody starts at step one. And then there's been also the alternative of that this person has a lot of experience, we're gonna start them at step 3.
I will be honest, I think the job that we're trying to recruit for is important enough and the skill set is as specific enough that if the right candidate comes along and we need to offer them more than the first step, that we have the flexibility to do so. So it would be dependent on the pool of candidates we have and the final offer to whoever we choose, and making sure that we have flexibility to be able to recruit and hire that person.
I've seen some situations where that's caused problems, just with how other people have been hired. You know, there's been a lot of other people that have started and they were told we have the salary schedule, and the reason that we've done this whole thing is so people know where they start and how they move up. But I do see the other side of that. I do see that you want to.
You don't want to limit the pool of people who are willing to apply for the positions, so.
Because we want the best qualified person we can get.
And if somebody's
I totally
coming-
understand what you're saying, though.
It does cause problems.
Yeah, but if somebody comes to us with 20, 25 years of HR experience and needs to hit a certain pay level to be able to come to Gilliam County, I don't want to lock us out of being able to hire that person if.
I would hope if we go this route and we do have this person, that maybe moving forward, this could be done more consistently. And not have a department that hires people at step 3 and then other departments saying, well, you have to start at step 1.
Because
Because we've kind of done.
hopefully
we've kinda
this
done-
would make things become more
Hopefully.
uniform in
Hopefully.
how the hiring's done. yeah.
As far as the range for the administrative assistants, not to bounce around, but since we're talking money,
Mhm.
where did we come up with that
So
range?
that range is based on our lowest sort of entry level, and that's the administrative assistant. The only other administrative assistant that we have in the county family is for the Justice Court. So this is a match to what the Justice Court's administrative assistant, the step range.
Okay. Both 40 hour?
Both 40 hour.
The name, the title.
Are you going to pick one of those, or?
Seems long.
Okay.
So I was just wondering, could this person not be called county administrator? Is there some reason that that's?
I mean, they could.
Okay.
I wanted to make sure that we were clear that it's a new position we're creating, so I wanted to be clear about that.
HR/county administrator? I don't know. It just seems long. I thought maybe we could try to.
I mean, you could just do chief of staff. The county's chief of staff.
Yeah. And that's not bad.
Yeah, I like it.
Okay. I'm okay with that. I'm not wedded to the title.
Oh, and this is a question this is probably not popular, and I probably know the answer already, but I have to say it. So if you take a lot of duties from another position and give it to a new position, does anything happen to the pay? Say a person was, currently doing all of this, and then you take half their job away, not half, but you know what I'm saying, and give it to another person, does anything happen to their?
So part of the new person's, the chief of staff's role will be to go through all of those job descriptions yearly. And part of that will be assessing whether the pay scale is appropriate for that position. So I wouldn't want to prejudge that. But certainly, I think it's appropriate to have ongoing evaluations of people's job descriptions and making sure the pay is appropriate to the actual expectations for the position.
It's just the only reason I brought it up, because I know that sometimes when you have a position and you have a lot of increased duties, sometimes that comes with a pay increase. So I didn't know if it went both ways or if it was just always, one direction.
It potentially could go both ways.
But aren't a lot of these things that you're saying you're pulling, that they're spread out all over is a one for, like, this person's doing safety and this person's doing carpool and this one's doing,
Some, yeah. I
so
mean,
they're
there's
spread out over.
a couple of people. So, but, I think your point is worth exploring. I don't necessarily think we want to wrap the two together. That's what I'm saying, is that I think it's appropriate once we have a professional HR person to help us through that process and looking at the job descriptions. And those should actually be looked at just annually as a review basis to make sure that they're still accurate and reflecting what our expectations for staff is. And then that's been an appropriate place to look and see if the compensation is.
Do you also
appropriate.
anticipate that with this possibility of the creation of this chief of staff position, that there would be more possible staffing realignment down the road?
I mean, that's gonna be up to the court, I think. I don't know if there are other, one thing I think that we'll hopefully see is that when this side is functioning sort of at a high level and we have a second set of eyes in the building, that they might be able to provide feedback in places where there's maybe opportunity for more efficiency, those kinds of things. So I don't have anything that I'm planning, if that's what you're asking. This is
I
it
know,
for
I'm just
me.
wondering if
But I don't know.
this could be the type of position that could handle that as well.
Could handle recommendations to the court on ways to make the county family more efficient in what we do.
Definitely a role they should be playing.
Mhm.
Some of that, though, is going to be subject to the collective bargaining
Right.
process. as
Yeah.
well.
Of course. All of it will
Yeah, pretty
to be clear.
Will these be union positions? Part of the county union?
No, the way that they're structured, and this is obviously something we'll have to work out with council and with the union itself, but the way that they're structured is the senior level person would be the chief negotiator of the CBA. So that would stop being the judge's role. And their assistant would be the technical administrative support for negotiations on the management side. So they would probably likely be treated as confidential, would be my.
If they have management duties, they would be. But if they don't, then they usually would not. But there's a lot of other little small factors that go into there and dealing with the union on whether they're a covered employee or not.
Yeah. Yeah, and part of that is the practicality in that I'm related to a union employee. So it's not practical to have the judge necessarily negotiating that contract.
I feel like last year, though, we moved away from that. Didn't we have Pierre and, didn't we pull the county court kind of out of it?
Oh, we did. The county court's always the ultimate deciding body.
Right, but I mean, as
on,
part of the negotiating team, like the
yes.
people that were working on it.
Last year it was
Nathan.
Pierre, Nathan,
You.
and me. And were you on it, Sandy? Or
At the end.
At the end, yes, that's right. Yeah. So
I think we nominated you, didn't we?
yes, I got roped into that.
That wasn't my fault.
No, actually, I enjoyed it. I thought Pierre was excellent to work with, and really enjoyed it.
Yeah, for sure though, the senior level person would not be a union because they would be supervising a lot of union employees, so.
Would this person then supervise the juvenile director?
Can I ask, earlier you said sort of supervise when you're not in the building. Are they supervising them full-time or is it supervising conditionally?
No, they would supervise full-time.
And one of the issues being how often you are out of the
Out
building.
of the building, yeah. So that there's somebody who is consistently in the building supervising. Other questions?
Do you have any other questions?
Probably. I mean, this, your, you know, like normal, your brief kind of
Try to lay it
takes
out.
care of a lot of the
Very,
questions.
Yeah.
And this is usually done in other counties where there's an administrator, but then in other counties, you also typically have, not a court, but you have a board of commissioners who are not compensated like you guys are. They might get a stipend or something, but then there's someone that's actually in there turning the wheels every day.
More questions, thoughts?
For right now, that's all I can, there will be more, but that's what I can think of right at the moment. I tried to write it down in my
You're fancy.
Nifty new book.
book.
So I'm gonna go to motion, is that all right with you?
Okay.
I move to create the new positions of Chief of Staff and Administrative Assistant, and to eliminate the position of Court Administrator effective July 1st of 2019.
I'll second. It's been moved and seconded to create the new positions of Chief of Staff and Administrative Assistant and to eliminate the position of Court Administrator effective July 1st, 2019. Is there further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, in terms of the job descriptions, Ruben, are you thinking, do those need to be approved today if we, because I would like, we'd like to have this person in place by July 1. So recruitment timeframe, I just want to make sure that we've got enough time to actually go through an appropriate recruitment process. So do we need to approve the job descriptions today? Can we do them contingent on CIS review and recommendations?
Yeah, I
or-
would do it contingent on CIS recommendations if you want to approve them today. Because, I mean, they are in draft form, and we do want to allow CIS to make some tweaks along the way.
Okay.
But we need them in place in order
Yeah,
to recruit.
And I think as a court, you want to be careful too, because, I mean, like I said, a lot of other counties do this, but they do it because they're boards of commissioners. This could make your jobs a lot less relevant to county operations. So I would carefully consider these.
I'm okay.
I am too.
Because I guess I would say I am okay because I know that the big picture will always be our responsibility. That the things like me approving leave requests and things like that take away from our ability to tackle the big issues that the county needs to tackle. That consistently happens. I mean, I have to just say that consistently happens where I will come in with the idea in the morning that I'm going to spend 3 hours on this big project that we've identified and literally not have any of that time left by the time that the day-to-day stuff.
Even in
Just
my
the way
part-time position, I'm spending hours every week.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine being interrupted by the tasks of every day when you're trying to work on something specific.
I'm thinking we'll still be relevant, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. I think
Well, there's
so
a lot of
too.
work there. No, I'm just saying
Yeah.
carefully consider what duties you do want to delegate.
Yeah.
Because there is, you were put here to do certain duties, and
Yeah.
I want you to be mindful that, you keep the big picture in mind.
Yeah. Okay, so,
You have a problem with that?
I don't, no, I don't, not quite sure where we went with the motion on language.
Oh, to
Contingent
upon CIS
and legal.
approval and edits. Maybe bring it back for final review, so that would make sense to do a final review if you can.
Can you move forward like that, or do you need it now?
Well, that's the question. Can we start advertising without having approved?
Mhm. Yes. Yes, I would go forth and get the CIS tweaks and start advertising. A job description is can be somewhat fluid until you find the right person and
Mhm.
see how it's going to work.
Okay.
I move to approve the job descriptions for the chief of staff and administrative assistant contingent on the CIS final review.
I'll second.
Okay, I'll make sure I put that down. Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the job descriptions for the chief of staff and administrative assistant contingent on CIS final review. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
How much assistance do you think we're going to need as far as recruitment? Do you anticipate needing assistance?
Assistance in terms of
Oh, I think last time we hired LGPI.
Yeah. I mean, I'm planning on advertising it far and wide and encouraging everybody I know to talk to anybody that might be interested in applying. So I think we won't really know until we start to see what comes in. I do want to have,
I should show you the quote. I should show you the paperwork on
how much it
the
was.
last one. Yeah,
Okay.
and what it all entailed. I mean, and everything that they
Yeah.
did for us as far as background checks and all this.
My plan is to have a
Wow.
conversation with CIS and just make sure that we have a recruitment plan that follows what they would suggest. And then also, depending on who's on the interview committee, I would like, they can come in and do a pre-interview sort of consultation just to make sure whoever's on that interview committee knows the rules of the road and what they can ask and not ask and all those kinds of things. So I think CIS has quite a few resources that would be free to us. So I'd like to pursue that first and see what they're able to offer us and move from there.
Okay,
So.
good.
Okay, anything further on this? And there's consensus that I should start that process
Yes.
immediately?
Yes.
Okay,
Sooner the better.
I will do that. Okay, moving on. 6.4, consider purchase of county vehicle. So I'm sorry that this is a late addition, but Terry Carnine was doing some, I'd asked her to get some quotes for a new Equinox for the county. It's in the budget for this year. And there's the Chevy Consumer Cash deal ends the 30th of April, which we don't have a meeting before then. So I was hoping to get this in front of everybody and make a decision if we would like to do that, because anytime we can save the county $3,000, we should probably do that. So the first one is from Wrights in your packet, I think. The total was $28,522. And then a Chevrolet out of Hermiston was $28,424. And then the third one, what was the third one out of?
Gary
Sandy?
Bruner and mattress.
Gary Bruner and mattress was $30,438. So the low bid is Cheryl Chevrolet, but it's close enough. I kind of wonder, given how much further we have to travel to pick it up and the staff time to do that, if it might make sense to accept the bid from
Well, and the warranty service and all of that stuff is,
Wrights.
yeah.
Is that acceptable
Yes.
for not accepting?
Because it's what, $98
It's not a lot.
or something?
It's 98 difference, and one's 20 minutes away and the other's
too.
Yeah, and the way the rule is written is you don't have to take the lowest bid, you have to take the one that is, in your opinion, the best for the county. And in that case, I agree that Wright Chevrolet is, I mean, they're closer and all that. As far as the service goes though, and I haven't verified this, but I heard that Wright Chevrolet is closing.
They sold.
So, yeah, they sold.
They sold to Gary Gruner, and service will go to Gary Gruner's in Madras. They
Okay.
won't be doing service in Fossil.
So if that weighs into your consideration at all, so be it, but you don't have to take the lowest. You can take what you think is in the best interest of the county.
I was thinking more of in terms of picking it up and just the travel to go get it, to be honest.
Because what will we be doing with our fleet for service? A lot of that comes out of the Dallas
stuff
stuff.
that came from Wright Chevrolet will have to go to Madras now.
This one from Wright Chevrolet looks good.
Yeah, I'm thinking that too now. Instead of going to Madras.
Oh, you mean Hermiston, Cheryl?
Cheryl Chevrolet,
You want to go Hermiston? I don't care, either one of them.
it doesn't
Fine to
matter.
me. Liz, which one do you like?
Okay, you want me to make a motion?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you
Okay.
decide. You're going to drive it more than we are.
I would move to accept the bid from Wright Chevrolet in the amount of $28,522 for a 2019 Chevy Equinox.
I second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we accept the bid from Wright Chevrolet in the amount of $28,522 for a 2019 Chevy Equinox. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This
Any
is
opposed?
on the lot. You can go get it tomorrow.
I think so.
Okay.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Thanks, guys. All right, we'll go back to 6.5, consider approval of April 3rd regular meeting minutes. Do you want to,
I would like to table.
okay. Do I need to do a motion to do that, or can we just do that by consensus?
We have not motioned before, but.
Yeah, but I think it's fine.
You think it's fine? Okay.
Yeah.
I kicked it out and then I wasn't sure if we actually needed a motion for it.
I think we're okay.
Okay. Cool, we'll go on to 7.0, court member reports. Leslie?
You do, because
You're the
it was in
senior,
order.
you're the
This-
senior
and I
member.
down at this end of the
It's
table.
it's a sign of respect.
Oh, okay, so you know how we were talking last meeting about that bill that I personally received from EOCA?
Mm-hmm.
I did call, and what, we were gonna think about whether or not we wanted to continue being part of the organization. I did call and talk to the person that sends most of the emails, Cinda.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, when was the last time well, first I called Ellen and said, when was the last time we paid this? And she couldn't find them as a vendor. And I said, is it possible that we paid with a credit card? And maybe that's not why it's showing up. She goes, that's possible. But then I called to Cinda, and she said the last time we paid was in 2014. So we haven't paid for 5 years. She said that they haven't really been that concerned about collecting dues. So my thought was just, let's just, she also said that the due structure was changing, and so we may be getting a different bill with a different amount. So my thought was just, maybe we just wait and not do anything,
Okay.
and not decide for a while.
They seem to like to send us 52 emails, whether we're a member or not.
I think so. I enjoy the emails. Well, maybe not 52, but some of them.
Yeah, because it
Kinda
wasn't
interesting.
inexpensive either. What was it, like $2,600?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that was my thought on that. And
Okay.
then, I went to with you all, I went to a budget committee meeting. The day before that, I went to a North Central Public Health District meeting. And as I mentioned at the budget committee, they may have some money issues coming up. They're talking about moving into the building that is owned by Wasco County once the Center for Living moves to their new building. And there's some cosmetic needs as far as carpeting, painting, things like that. Nothing big, but just a little bit of a facelift, which may, of course, cost some money. The other thing that they brought up is it's been quite a while since the salary survey that they did a few years back shows that they are pretty far behind. So that's something that's probably going to continue to be discussed at our meetings. Also, as a public service announcement, they are conducting what they call a pod, which is a point of dispensing. It's going to occur on May 1st at the Mid-Columbia Fire and Rescue, and it goes from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. for a drive-through pod simulation. And how they explain that to me is that it's a practice, it's a drill, basically, where medication and vaccinations will be given to people to prevent disease in response to a public health threat. She said, for example, you may remember being invited to a pod for H1N1 vaccine back in 2009, or a pertussis vaccine in 2015. So again, that's happening May 1st. We will be at county court, but she also wanted to specify that no medication or vaccinations will be given at the exercise. Instead, the first 75 participants will receive a free mini first aid kit.
So it's a drill.
It's a drill.
It's a drill.
It's a practice.
Got it.
She said, we encourage everyone to participate in an effort to help community members understand and prepare for public health emergencies. So that's a big thing coming up with the North Central Public Health District. Sunday, I was able to participate in Senator Wyden's town hall down at the Grunkmas building. Very informative. We talked about a wide variety of subjects. Pretty much anything you can think of, we went around the room. There wasn't very big attendance, but it gave us a chance to all
I thought it was nice.
visit.
I thought it was nice to have it a little bit more informal and just have people in a circle around the senator. Yeah.
It was good. Road committee. So the first meeting that they had was on the day that we had our first listening session. And so I spoke with Dewey and I said, if they did possibly want me to try to attend sometimes, the date that they have picked is the first Thursday of the month, and it's in the afternoon. And I told him, I said, that's almost impossible for me. I said, there might be other court members that could go, and I could try here and there. I said, but if you really want me to go, the last Wednesday of the month would be great for me, and I could probably attend more often. And he said it had to do, picking the first Thursday of the month had to do with Les Rourke's schedule. And I said, well, it's probably better to work around Les's schedule than mine. But he said he'd throw that out there for me, and so I asked him to do that.
Where are they holding?
I think they're going back and forth between Arlington and
So we could maybe even just swap, and when it's in Arlington, maybe you could go Sherry, when Leslie can't go, and then when it's in Condon, I could go.
well, hopefully I get to go.
Yeah, it'd be
sometimes.
good. Yeah, I mean,
but I don't know if they can. Yeah, they
if
might
you just
pick
want a
their
court
day
member
and-
to fill in on days that you can't go,
Okay.
I throw that out there.
Sorry, I'm taking forever. Did you receive a invitation to Governor Brown's reception coming up
No,
May 2nd?
apparently you're on her. You guys are buddies, yeah?
We didn't go to the gala.
Oh, anyway, yes, she's having a reception May 2nd.
Where?
Watch for this. You should be. I would think you should be getting it. It's honoring Oregon women's holding elected office.
Really?
Yes.
Where at?
In Salem.
Oh, yeah, well.
Yeah, I was hoping it was Portland, but
Whatever.
anyway, that was that. And then the last, this is it, I swear. When I was looking through the AP, I noticed there was a check for an employee's child.
Mhm.
And I was curious about that because, I'm just used to the museum where, we can't hire our kids. They can volunteer. We definitely try to get them to do that, but we don't pay them. And so I was wondering if that's something that, does the county have a policy on that, or is it okay? Is it?
I don't think we have a policy.
I'm not aware of any policy, and that sort of goes back to elected offices doing their own hiring and not really having a uniform process throughout the entire courthouse. Because there are a number of issues similar to that where part-time help is just sort of brought in without being advertised.
Well, the other thing too is that I noticed it didn't go through payroll. So I was just curious. I was just curious about that because it was something that I hadn't seen or hadn't noticed
For work,
before.
for Quorum, is that?
Mhm.
Yeah, it was a temporary.
So temporary help.
I'm making a note of it. But I don't think we have anything on the books right now.
Oh gosh, there was one more thing. I'm sorry. I'm gonna mess up your time.
Hurry
No.
up.
Okay, I received.
Look, we've got
corres-
50 minutes left. We've got plenty of time.
This is the last thing. This is the last thing, I promise. So I received some I received an email last night from our port manager, concerned about some of the decisions that were made at last week's budget committee meeting. Concerned that this court is saying no to small business job creation, saying no to having a strong port, and really very concerned that we turned down the student apprentice program. He said that the employers, students, teachers, school administration all felt that the program was highly successful, and that the kids learned and were able to put the valuable experience on their resume, and thought we should reconsider. Also mentioned was that if we realized how many jobs that we are expelling from the county, from the Frontier Call Center, Juvenile Justice, the concrete batch plant, and then, yeah,
What's he even talking about?
I don't know, I'm confused.
and I can forward this to Sandy, and maybe Sandy would distribute to you both. Also, one last thing in the email was that Kaylin and the chamber, he was concerned that we had not fully funded the chamber's request.
He's missing the whole point, but that's okay. Maybe we can educate him.
Okay. I'll pass that along.
Okay.
Can I
Yeah,
make a
please.
comment about North Central Public Health?
Sure.
That's kind of been something that I am not in agreement with the services, I guess. And especially the amount of money that Gilliam County is giving them. And then they do drills, pod drills or whatever. Where's Gilliam County's involvement in that? I mean, should they not be coordinating with the health districts and maybe doing those things here? And that's kind of what the community, what I've heard being on the health district, what the community says back is, you know, we're putting a lot of money into community health stuff for Wasco County.
And
So
maybe we can talk more
Yeah,
if you have.
because I've always thought that the health districts within our county, there's a lot of services that they could provide with that money. I mean, obviously, there are some things that we need them for, but.
Okay, yeah, can we talk more?
Sure.
Because I would love to hear all your thoughts.
And I would just remind the court that in the South Gilliam Health District's grant request, they had a comment that they would be interested in talking to the court about providing some of the services they're currently at North Central Public Health.
Okay.
Great. Anything else for court reports?
I'm done, thank you.
You're good? You'll forward?
Thank you for your patience.
You'll forward,
I'm exhausted.
I will.
I can't even do my report now.
you'll
Come on.
forward that email to
Yes.
Sandy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because we really need to respond to get him up to speed on what the reasoning was behind those choices that were made.
Yeah. All right, Sharon, you're up.
I met with Portland Metro Solid Waste Department representatives on Monday. Debbie Humphrey, Roy Brower, and Thomas Chameau, and Paul Engner. And Paul has been the liaison with Waste Management for the past 20 years, and he's retiring in 2 weeks. So he brought those folks up to meet me because their court connection was Dennis Gronquist, and They want to do something similar to what had been done before with the court, where they bring a busload of Metro people and the court meets with them and takes a tour of the landfills. So I believe that Roy's going to put something together and get ahold of Sandy. Did you
Yeah, so I
see
got
already?
an email this
Oh,
morning
oh, he's
from,
right on Johnny on the spot.
yeah, from Will Elder
Oh.
at Metro,
Mhm.
and they would like to set something up in June. And so what they're asking is for us to give them some likely dates that would work, and then they will try to take those dates and find one that works on their end.
Good.
Good news.
So if you have any thoughts on dates in June?
I'd sort of thrown out any of the Wednesdays, but
Yeah, Wednesdays are always
Um,
better for you, aren't they, Leslie?
but it's-
And me too,
I was
that's kind
even
of my plan.
thinking maybe if we did one of the court meetings in June in Arlington at 1, then we could meet them maybe in the morning. And
They
then
don't
do-
mind coming to Condon.
Yeah.
In fact, that was something that Paul said was they felt like because this is the county seat, it's nice to be able to come and,
Did they want to go to the site
Yeah, with
though?
a tour, it'd probably be better down
or
there.
they've done both. They've come into Condon and then they've gone down another tour. So whatever.
Okay.
I just want to throw that out there because Paul did say that they felt recognized that. And I did tell him that 2 of the court members are in Arlington, so.
And in the email, he did mention that he had been speaking with Nancy at the Bronquist building, so I think they were planning on down there.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean we can't change it.
No, that's fine. I just, this is their thing and whatever they want to do.
So do you guys want to try to maybe do one of our regularly scheduled court meetings and just do the Metro in the morning and then meet at 1?
Sure.
Would that work?
If they think that's enough time for, what do they,
I'd
what is
have to
their
see.
plan, get together,
Yeah, I
take a
know
tour, have
they're-
lunch?
They're planning on a lunch, because we talked about
Mhm.
catering options, so.
We could even push back court if we needed to.
Or we could
Sure.
record at 10 and then do their thing after.
Yeah, that would be good.
We could do that too.
Okay.
So let's maybe start and see if any of the court dates in June will work for them. And then based on that and what their total picture is, how many hours they think they'll need, then we can either bump up court or
Any Wednesday.
any Wednesday.
Okay.
Okay, any other reports?
I also went to Waste Management this morning to use their disposal facilities, and there is now a large sign that says, "Put your tires here."
Oh, good.
Look at that.
So, yeah, the.
We're getting things done
The
already.
little signs still say no tires, and then there's a sign to the side that says no tires in the bins, and then the big sign of where to put your tires. So they did listen, and so that was refreshing. And I did have a chance to spend an hour or 2 with Sheriff Betancourt, and we talked about the North Core and budget. And that's, I'm just not nearly as busy as Leslie here.
Well, I
She's been on it.
did a bunch of talking. The 12th is not very good for me, if we
Okay,
can
no
try to
12th.
avoid the 12th.
Of June.
Yes, all the rest of the Wednesdays look pretty good.
I didn't put a calendar in, I've got to, start doing that. My Wednesdays are
Okay.
Pretty good.
Any other updates?
I do not. That
Okay.
is it.
So I've got a few. I talked to Adam Haas this morning about our fiber build and how it's going. And so I thought I would just give you the highlights of our conversation. He's done 6 site visits since the project began in November. Has been just checking on them periodically. So far, everything is looking good. They've had a couple of breaks and delays because of the weather, the holidays, that kind of stuff. The most recent was the rain and the mud was kind of slowing them down on what they need to do. But despite that, they are ahead of schedule. So they've got 2 miles left of conduit, which they're expecting to be complete sometime late May or June. And then from there, they still need to blow the fiber through the conduits, which I kind of actually like to watch them blow fiber through that. I don't know how that process works, but it
That sounds
sounded very interesting. I don't know how you would blow fiber 40 miles, but it sounds very interesting. And then you still need to splice it and then terminate at both ends, and then do some testing to make sure that there's no problems with the line. And then what will come up after that is how we are going to enable other people to connect with that line that we've built and that's in. So the city of Condon is in discussions with Columbia Basin over a carrier neutral facility. And it's something that I don't think the previous court necessarily was engaged in just because of the personalities involved. But I'm wondering if there's an appetite for this court to have me start engaging with Columbia Basin and the city on whether there might be a potential partnership in having a carrier neutral. So basically what we're talking about is a facility that any carrier that wants to serve Condon or Arlington could come in, basically have rack space, plug in, connect to the fiber, and then be able to provide service after that. So it's really the fiber is nice, but it's not very useful unless somebody can actually connect to it and serve. So that's sort of the next step. And rather than going it alone and having multiple places, it probably makes sense for us to start talking about a partnership with the other players that are in the community that are.
I totally agree with that.
Okay, so I don't know where that's gonna go, but I will at least start engaging with the city and Columbia Basin on what their plans are and just seeing
Yes.
what role we might be able to play in that.
Whatever's for the good of the people.
Yeah.
Do the best.
And you can just do a co-location agreement then, where they can come in and get their racks and what is theirs and what's ours and all that.
Exactly, yeah. So, but at least start having a conversation on a building and locations and what that might cost and who would run it, all- just all those logistics that we need to kind of start digging into once the, and then we had tentatively, I don't know if I should say this in public, because I don't know if Inland will be on board, but we had teased Inland that maybe we would do a ribbon splicing rather than a ribbon cutting, because you don't say cut in the fiber industry, sometime around the 4th of July when they finish the project. So if they decide to move forward with that, I'll let you know and we can go and be part of the ribbon splicing events. So, and then the only other thing I wanted to ask, I don't know if you guys got an email from AOC or NACO about the Leadership Academy.
I did.
So they're doing a reduced rate for one of our members of the court, and so I was curious if either of you are interested in pursuing that.
I am not.
Okay.
Are you?
I was thinking about doing it myself, but
I think
I
you
didn't
should
want
do
to
it.
take the
No.
reduced rate if you guys were interested in.
No, you should
doing
do it.
Okay. That was the only other thing I wanted to check in with you about. And then we already asked the question on the letters to the recipients, the grant recipients, so we will get working on that.
Grant recipients and also to those
Who are not.
denied.
Yes, okay. I can do that. 8.0 announcements.
Let's see. Got County College starting Friday for a few of us. Tri-County Court next Wednesday at the Sherman County Courthouse, 10 a.m. Our next court meeting is May 1st at 3 p.m., which will be followed at 5 p.m. by the juvenile court operations listening sessions. Let's see. We've got the Metro meeting that we'll figure out in June. There is a public meeting from the Oregon Department of Energy discussing the Montague wind power amendments, which have now really been skewed towards solar versus wind turbines,
Oh, really?
up to almost 1,200 acres potentially. And that is going to be held in Condon, May 16th at Lori's Place Restaurant at 5:30 p.m. I believe you all received a personal invitation to that because it'll be followed with a dinner.
And I think, isn't that right before?
And that is right before the next county college,
That's
which
Yes,
will be the next day.
I'm not available.
So if there's perhaps any comments that you want to have submitted in writing for this. If we're not able to attend, we can certainly consider that.
Okay.
And then the last thing I had is we got, just today, we received a announcement, invitation of sorts to Bill McKinnis Senior's Retirement Party, which is on April 20th from 10 to 1 p.m. at Wright Chevrolet in Fossil.
Is it 20th
This Saturday?
Saturday?
This Saturday, yes.
I just wrote it down.
Oh, what is today? The 17th? Yeah, that would be it, so we won't be here. Bummer.
I'm missing all kinds of stuff this weekend.
Birthday party,
Funeral.
funeral.
It is Easter.
And it's Easter. And a high school rodeo and a junior high school rodeo.
And then,
The sacrifices.
and then Frontier Talent's next meeting should be next Wednesday. I'm gonna check on our agenda and see.
I just looked at that today, and on the website, the agenda says Thursday, so.
Yikes. Okay, we'll get that straightened out. So our next meeting will be May 1st, correct?
May 1st at 3 p.m.
3 o'clock. And that one's here
Here.
in the courthouse. Any other business?
I have nothing further.
Okay, then I will adjourn it at 4:22.